When the Packers drafted a linebacker out of BYU in the 4th round of the 2005 NFL Draft, it didn't make much of a stir. After all, that was the Aaron Rodgers draft. And no one knew much about this energetic dynamo from tiny Evanston, Wyoming. His name, Brady Poppinga.
Yeah, it's a wintry, windy, constantly throughout the year kind of place. I mean, there's snow that falls in July. So, there's a saying in Wyoming, it's where the men are men and the women are too. It's a tough place, It's not, for the faint of heart, to say the least, because the climate can be pretty rough. But there's a lot of beauty to it. I enjoyed my time growing up there, and it for surely forged me as a person and also a football player, preparing me to be part of the Packers organization. I mean, there was a time back in 2007, we were in Chicago, late in the season, and I don't know, it was the coldest game I'd ever played in my life. And winds were, I think, 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. Remember that game?
Yep.
And I just remember walking out to warm up, and me and Favre, we would pass always when I'd go out and he'd come in. And I was going out, and I was in a light, long sleeve shirt with just a beanie on, and he goes, "Poppinga, it's freezing out there." And his face was just swollen. He had all this stuff on it. And I mean, the wind is going. I'm from Wyoming. This is nothing. And I went out there and I was like, oh, wow, this is taking my breath away. This is something else. But, I still went out there sleeveless and, played in those elements. And it was like my time in Wyoming had prepped me to play in this climate, not only in Chicago, but here in Green Bay.
Brady, you went to BYU, but did you do your mission before you started playing football at BYU?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the Mormon mission, because we hear about all these missions, but you went to Uruguay.
Yeah.
And what do you do on a mission?
It's service-based. So you're going there, and your whole purpose is to serve the people that you've been assigned to serve. And you do a number of service projects. You'll dig ditches, you help build houses, and the biggest one is you bring a message of peace. And that's really what it's about, is you're engaging in conversations that are meant to bring peace to people's lives, give them hope, and help them progress throughout whatever adversities life will bring you, which is just the nature of everybody's life, regardless if you live in Uruguay or you're here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so I did that for 2 years and saw my body slowly deteriorate. But my passion for the game just kept increasing because you missed it, and it taught me a lot too, because you become very autonomous. Because when you're a missionary, it's not like you have somebody constantly looking over your shoulder, making sure you're getting up at 6:30 in the morning, making sure you're out with the people in the community by 9:30, and then at home by 9:30. Nobody's looking over your shoulder. So you become very autonomous, very self-motivated, and at times it's stuff that's not very glorious. You don't get a lot of publicity for it. People aren't out there patting you on the back. A lot of times people are slamming doors in your face and, treating you poorly at times because of some misconceptions and misinformation, but you keep grinding it out. And then lo and behold, when you get in a position like where you play football, and it's kind of that same element of, okay, I got to be motivated, I got to show up to my workouts, I got to do my workouts with excellence, and then I got to prepare to help my team be the best team possible. It's all kind of related, but then all of a sudden you get that positive feedback because you go out and you win, you have some success, and so it was very good at preparing me to eventually be a professional football player.
A lot of times people take the lessons they learned in football into their real lives and the discipline it takes. But this is kind of interesting. That mission probably gave you...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like fasting from food, but I was fasting from football. I mean, I remember one time I just came home from my mission, and I was rooming with a guy at BYU, and he'd come in from a practice. I wasn't practicing yet because I was getting ready to start. And he's walking in, and I didn't think about it, but I turned around and I gave him like a form tackle, and I knocked the food out of his hand. He's like, "Brady, I just got out of practice." I was like, "I'm sorry, man. I just want to get the pads on. I want to get out there. I haven't played for, 2.5 years." And so that same kind of it's like the newness of the game is what was really key and just helped propel me the rest of the time throughout my career.
But the discipline principles that you need in football,
huge. Yeah,
where you learned.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you look at my career. I mean, I literally was like a Swiss Army knife. Not to the degree of like a Taysom Hill, but still, like I played middle linebacker at BYU. Then they shifted me to an odd front defensive end, and then. Or actually, I was a wide 9 defensive end, odd front defensive end. And then my senior year, they moved me off the ball. And that happened when I was giving birth to my daughter, Jasmine. I was in the hospital. I went in as a defensive end. All of a sudden, we had all these injuries at off-the-ball linebacker. They called me like, "Would you like to play off-the-ball linebacker?" I said, "I'll do whatever you guys want." So we went into the hospital as 2 and left as 3, and then my position changed. And lo and behold, I had a phenomenal game against Notre Dame, off the ball, from start off the year. And at the time, the linebackers coach, bless his heart, I forget his name, Ruffner, Mark Ruffner, you remember him? He saw me in that game, and he started talking to the Packers, and and apparently that game was the kind of the game that gave them the idea that I could play off the ball, and then they ended up drafting me as an off-the-ball linebacker. So that's just been the epitome of my career. Just like wherever they need you, you go. It's for the betterment of the team, and you just figure it out, and it's all about team success, which that's what I enjoy.
His linebacker coach here in Green Bay, Winston Moss, once said of Brady, he sleeps with his eyes open. Does he?
No, when I was playing, I didn't sleep very much, but no, it's exciting, to get up and to come to Lambeau and to be a part of this organization, and everything here is focused and centered around just winning football games, So it's because when I left the Packers and went to the Rams and even to the Cowboys, that kind of focus isn't the same. You have owners there that have their agendas, and sometimes their agendas don't line up with the team's and the team's success. With the Rams, you got them wanting to move to Los Angeles. And with the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, it's Jerry's world. He has this parade before the game. It's like, everybody's here to see me. The Cowboys are just secondary. I'm the real central attraction here. And that's okay. And it's fine, but it's like pure. The integrity of just football in Green Bay is just how you'd want it to be. There's no conflicting interests. It's all about, hey, let's go out and let's keep bringing that if we can, or put ourselves in a position to bring the Lombardi Trophy home. And that's a beautiful thing to be a part of.
The small-town upbringing in the elements of rural Wyoming certainly prepared Brady for the rigors of the NFC North. That game was amazing. You guys pretty much had the division clinched. You were going to the playoffs. And it's, I think, second to last week of the season, and you end up in Chicago. Nobody wanted to play that day. That wind was blowing off.
Favre did not want to play at all. That was another thing he told me. He's like, I don't know how we're going to throw the ball in this weather. And he couldn't complete a pass beyond 5 yards. But then you had Kyle Orton, bless his heart, who had half the arm talent in his breath. He was completing 12-yard passes. I was like, well, somebody's got a little mental block here. But hey, I don't blame him.
Certain courses for certain horses. Kyle Orton could beat the Packers. I've seen him beat the Packers with the Bears, the Bills, and the Chiefs. Remember when you guys were undefeated going into Arrowhead Stadium, 2011, like 13-0?
Yeah.
That was Kyle Orton and the Chiefs.
Yeah, he had his number.
Oh, my goodness. That was amazing. Since you touched on it, and I always call 2007 season the blessed year, because you guys are coming off McCarthy's first year. I think it was 8-8, something like that. Nobody expected much from the Packers. And you guys got kind of up on a roll, and Brett got hot, and he was playing really well, and you guys stormed into the playoffs and played Seattle in the snow globe game here in Green Bay. Tell me about that, because that was an interesting afternoon. You're down 14-0 early, and then it starts snowing hard.
Yeah, we had those early turnovers, and it was almost like because you have these stats they tell you going into the week, and there's this pretty high percentage of teams that end up winning those games who score first. So not only they score first, but then they score twice and get you down by 4. And it's like, man, the odds are really not in our favor. But the feeling was never like, oh, we're done, we're out of it. It was just like, okay, we're moving on. And then it was almost like in coincidence with the snow falling is when all of a sudden just a literal avalanche took place from our end. Because I think we scored, 42 unanswered points. And it became really quick a dominating, historic game. And it was so surreal because when the snow was falling, it was no wind, perfectly still. And it's almost like you could hear the snowflakes falling on your pads and your helmet as you're out there in the intense competition. And then the fans were just, and that's what makes, Green Bay so special, just embracing the whole moment. And it was literally like you're in a snow globe. And I guess that's one of the nicknames that game ended up being called.
Brady, that was a weather phenomenon. It basically only snowed in Green Bay. I lived in Milwaukee, and I'm driving back after the game. And halftime of the game, I've got a flight to catch for another game the next day out of Milwaukee. So I called my wife at halftime. She's in Milwaukee. I said, is it snowing down there? How hard is it snowing? She said, no, it's not snowing at all. And so when I went back, drove after the game, once you got to Sheboygan,
Nothing.
The snow stopped. There was nothing.
Wow.
And I remember there was a weather guy who talked about a meteorological something or other that happened, and it just snowed that day on that field. How about that?
That's beautiful. It just goes to show you that the football gods hold the Packers in very high favor.
They certainly do. But the next week, you played host to the Giants.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was much colder.
Yeah, that was
And it wasn't snowing, but it was much colder. Tell me about that game, the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, without the wind chill, I think we were, -10. But it didn't seem as cold as that Chicago game. But it was still cold, no question about it. And it was one of those games that it was just two teams that if we played in the current, maybe not. Think of the current overtime since we just kept going back and forth because we were just both evenly matched stalemate. And it just came down to that last play where, Farvey got picked off there and they were just right. It was just right on their side of the field. They just kind of positioned it in the middle, kicked it to win it and go to the Super Bowl. And then they end up winning the Super Bowl, which I find interesting because when you look back at the matchup, I believe they matched up a little bit better with the Patriots than we did. So, people say, oh, if you'd have beat the Giants, you would have for surely beaten those Patriots. I don't know. I mean, that's why you play the game. But it was a really fun game. But at the same time, how it ended kind of puts a damper on the funness of it.
Few players, even on this level, enjoyed the game more than Brady Poppinga. For him, every day in the NFL was a joy.
Oh, yeah, because when you leave the game for 2 years, you know that it's not who you are. You know it's not forever. And especially in the NFL with injuries and just things are changing every day. I felt like a week in the NFL it was equivalent to a year of life of changes. I always felt like that. Like there's so many things happening. Oh yeah, because there's game planning stuff going on, tweaks. All of a sudden, one week you're asked to do this, the next week you're asked to do that, and then guys are cut, and so you just know that hey, every day you just got to take advantage of it, and you got to make the most of it, and you just got to go out with the mindset that at the end of the day you got to be able to look back and know that hey, you took advantage of all the opportunities that were presented to you.
Last question, Green Bay. 10, 20 years from now, what do you tell people about your experience here?
Oh, man, it'll always be the same. It's just all about football. And the support is second to none. Like I said, I mean, just the fact that the whole organization is set up for the success of the team it's a beautiful place to be in because you know that you're going to have every resource, every opportunity, and all the support that you could ask for. And the fact that it's in this close-knit, really small community that everybody's very supportive of one another. I've never seen so many charitable events for your neighbor's illness or your cousin's, issues or whatever it is in one community than in Green Bay area. Like it's phenomenal. Maybe it's how it is in Wisconsin. I don't know. But in Green Bay, I was just the self-support and having that spill into, the Green Bay Packer organization. It's special. And so that's, when I tell Jasmine, it's an unbelievable opportunity to be a part of the organization. And I was telling her this morning too that the opportunity to be a part of the organization is so highly valued and it's so much appreciated. And it's just because it's an extension of the community. So it's an honor and it's great that it's turned out this way with the NFL just continuing to explode as this international business and enterprise that they've maintained the integrity of what Green Bay is all about. Because it really is a unicorn in a world of basically 31 other enterprises that are feeding into an owner. Now you still have this pure football team that it's all about football. And it was beautiful to be a part of it. It's beautiful to see it still in existence and see it continue to progress and have its successes.
Today, Poppinga with his wife Brooke and their 4 children live in the Los Angeles, California area where he owns Customized Fitness Systems, a full-service fitness distribution company. A gung-ho special teamer, linebacker, and Super Bowl champion, Brady's big personality and love of the game certainly left a mark with the Packers.